afternoon, everybody, and how are we all doing today? Is Sunday, the 7th of December, 2025. We are officially into December, which is officially Christmas month. So we can actually start talking about Christmas. You will see I've got the Christmas tree out. That is my contribution. I'm feeling festive, to say the least. How are we all doing? Hope you are well. Now, today I want to talk about whether or not it is worth saving your own seed. This is something that is, well, it comes up every now and then. It's something that I feel we need to discuss tonight as a group to figure out if it is really worthwhile. And the reason I say, is it worthwhile, is because there are sometimes quite a few, what's the word I'm looking for? Quite a few things that make everything a bit complicated with the world of saving, of seed saving. But I don't think it needs to be that complicated. I'd love to hear your experiences on how you go about saving seed as well. So before we get into that, let's see if anybody is out there. We've got Adrian saying, hi, Richard and all. Good evening to you. Turbo Stream saying, good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. We've got Kate saying, good evening, Veg Army. Good evening to you. We have got Rob saying, good evening, all. Good evening to you. Nathan, a.k.a. Allotted Chef. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. Hargrave Gas. Evening, all. Hope everybody has had a great week. Same question to you. We have got Anna Jones. Good evening, Garners. Good evening to you. Stuart Jackson. Evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Hope you're all safe with all this rain and wind. Good evening to you. Hope you are safe as well. Anna Jones, have I said? Yeah, I must have said hello to Anna Jones. What have we got? Scott is there saying good evening all. Good evening to you. Digwell, good evening, Pop Pickers. Good evening to you. Jenny is there. Happy birthday for last week, Jenny. Hope you had a good one. Hello, everyone. I'm here and cooking at the same time. What are you cooking? What are you cooking? Gary is there saying good evening all. Good evening to you. We have got Turbo Stream. 2 weeks to the solstice. I can't wait for the light to return, albeit slowly. Indeed. And Digwell, I saved shed loads of seeds and I'm saving some F1s this year. So here we go. That is kicking it right off there with the F1s. And this is one of the things that I often say. Not so much it makes it complicated, but I think to the beginner, to the person who's never saved seed before, it can just sound a little difficult to get your head around. So first up, let me ask you, have you ever saved any seeds? Have you saved any seeds from your vegetables or even your flowers? Put your hands up if that is the case. Now, I have to admit, I quite often do try and save some seeds. I think especially things like chilies and beans that are incredibly easy to save seeds from, and you still get to eat certain vegetables from them. They are the easy, and I certainly do save some of those seeds. And I like it. I really like saving seeds because you get the potential that you can keep those plants going. You can keep, if you've had a successful year with a particular crop, you can keep those genetics going. That hopefully mean you get more and more successes as you go. Now, it's not just seeds. I save garlic. I've saved potatoes in the past as well. And as we work more and more towards self-sufficiency, I believe that saving seeds is going to be more and more important. Being able to sustain ourselves within my entire house, my garden, is going to be more and more important. Chili Kate says, hi everyone, sorry I'm late, the power trip just as I started. Excellent. Jenny says, spag bowl, nice and easy. Excellent. Chili's raised her hand to say she saves seeds. Anna Jones has raised her hands to say she saves seeds. Gary has raised their hands to say they save seeds. What have we got? Turbo Stream says, I do save seeds, parsnips, broad beans, and field beans mostly. Great stuff. Hargrave says, I save seeds, but sometimes after lots of effort growing them, they don't flower and fruit. Peppers. So this is actually what I want to get to. Is it worth it when you take into account. Now, peppers are a really good example because I grow quite a few peppers. I do try and grow quite a few peppers, and I got some supermarket peppers today because we've run out of the ones that we have been growing, and I realised just how many seeds you get inside a single pepper. But that doesn't mean they're all going to germinate. There is a bit of preparation that we have to do. What I like to do, and I use peppers as an example, is obviously we remove the seeds from the flesh. We can eat the flesh, of course. We then need to dry those seeds out a bit by placing them on a tray in the sun and just let some of that moisture, or place them in a brown paper bag and hang them up and just let some of that moisture escape. I've even seen certain people using a seed dryer, tiny little thing, a bit like a dehydrator, but much smaller, that just dries those seeds. And then you have to save them in something like envelopes and hope that when you sow them, they're going to germinate and they are going to be successful. A seed doesn't mean it is going to grow. You can get seeds that are not, what's the right word? Embryonic, is that the right word? They don't contain the life inside them to actually grow. They're just a seed, an empty seed. So there's a lot of work. What I like to do when I do save some seeds, when I put them into an envelope, I put down a batch number and I just put 4 or 5 in a tray in my heated propagator on some moist kitchen roll, and just see if they germinate. If they don't germinate, if they don't sprout, we don't bother trying to save them. Kate says, I've saved seeds, good success with tomatoes, which I have as gift seed packs one Christmas, and this year I'm trying true potato seed for fun. Tomatoes are a good example of a seed that has extra steps involved. We'll get into that a little bit later. Chili cake, roast beef here, just made horseradish sauce. I got some horseradish I need to make some sauce out of, actually. Stuart says, I tried to save seed both at home and in school. My runner beans go back at least 5 years. This is exactly my point. Exactly the point I want to get. You save the seeds and you can keep them going for quite a few years. Some of my garlic has been going for many years now. And the real thing that actually brought this conversation up for me, on that note, on the conversation that has made this why I wanted to discuss this, because I am looking at doing more of my own seed saving, perhaps even breeding my own plants to save the seeds from. I realized just how much the price of seeds have gone up. I had a pack of parsley I bought this year. It was it cost me it cost me £1 more than it cost me 2 years ago, and I got half as much for parsley seeds. And it's really made me think that perhaps seeds are going to get more and more expensive, especially as the cost of living goes up. And saving our seeds is possibly a way of just making it a little bit cheaper for us. Anna says, I've been saving so much seed for so many things for so long. It just seems like part of the process of growing things now. It would be such a waste not to. I agree. What seeds do you save then? Let's have a list of what seeds that you save if you do save some seeds. Gary says, some of my saved seeds go mouldy, especially beans. So if they're going mouldy, that means that they've not quite dried out enough. And this is where they're going into a package or something while they're still damp. This is why it's so important to get them dry before they go into a package or something. Jenny has raised her hand to say she saves seeds. Turbo Stream says, is it worth it? I don't know, but it gives me a bit of satisfaction that I did. Good answer to the question. Good answer to the question there. Stuart says, I will say saved flower seeds are much more successful than veg. Interesting. Nicola, evening Richard and all. Nice to manage to get into the veg garden, even with the heavy rain. Lucky you indeed. Kate says, I save those silica bags and keep them with the seeds. Good advice. Yeah, those little packets when you buy electrical stuff that usually have do not eat on them. I keep those as well, and I pot them in all my seed containers because I just dry them out that little bit more. I keep my seeds in boxes in the fridge, and that works really well. And then I add that silica gel just to keep them a bit more moist, less dry, sorry. Digwell's listed seeds that he saves: spuds, elephant garlic, loads of tomatoes, chilies, peppers, runners, French beans, squashes, dill, and more herbs. And goes on to say, if the seed is not plump, it has no embryo. Many of my squash seeds are flat. Yeah, that is exactly the point I was trying to raise. Pepper seeds, pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin, you open up a pumpkin and you get hundreds and hundreds of seeds in them. But if they're not plump, the chances are they've got no embryo in them, and therefore they're not worth saving. You want the plump ones in order to be able to save the seed from. Turbo Stream says, I saved some red onion seed with Winter Electric, but I've never seen this variety for sale as seeds, only sets. Now, this might be, I'm not particularly sure about Winter Electric, or Electric as I know it, if it is an F1 variety. I could be, no, I don't know. There is, and this is where it gets complicated, F1 variety. So F1 are where you take two different varieties, you breed them together to get that seed, and then the resulting plant will be, in this case, electric. If it is an F1, I don't know if it is. Now, if you take two F1s, in this case two electrics, you breed them, and the resulting flower or the resulting seed that you get may be more like one of the parent plants. This is where it gets complicated. This is why most people who save seeds tend to go for heirloom varieties, or the first stage, I guess you could say, the parent plants. It does get complicated. That's something I want to get into as well. Jenny says, I don't save squashes. I can't be sure they haven't cross-pollinated. I like to grow lots of different varieties. I save a lot of flower seeds, so I'm used to drying them out, etc. etc. Now, squash is actually something that I do want to save the seeds from. Pumpkin seeds, particularly, I've noticed, are getting more and more expensive. But what I want to do, or if you want to save pumpkin seeds, you actually have to take the female flower before it opens, put a bag around it, a net bag, wait for it to open, and then take a male flower and go along and try and impregnate that from the male flower. That is because squashes can be very promiscuous. They will pretty much flower and produce from anything that in that same family. So you could have a courgette seed in your pumpkin plant, for example. So that is where another thing where it gets complicated. Andrew says, evening, Richard and all. Good evening to you. Jenny says, I dry my beans for eating. If I'm short in the garden, I raid the kitchen jars. Yeah, again, beans to me, beans and peas are some of the easiest plants to save seeds from, because you literally let them go really dry on the plant. You really want to do it towards the end of the season, or when the plants have really come to the end of their life, because once they go dry like that and they actually turn to seed, the plant itself will stop flowering. But beans and peas are some of the easiest, because you let them go to that really rock hard, dry, literally where you can break away the outer pod and the beans just fall straight into your hand. That is what you want. And then they don't really need much drying at that point, which makes them some of the easiest. But it does mean they don't tend to flower so much or produce any more. What have we got? So I'm going to have to skip a few comments. So if anybody wants to add anything or I miss anything, please do feel free to mention it again. Hargrave Guest says peppers, chilies, sweet corn, potatoes, beans, and flower seeds he saves. Excellent. Sweet potatoes are worth saving. I've never been able to get sweet potatoes never been able to grow sweet potatoes from chits. I want to one year. Plump rules. Stuart says, I save tomatoes, chilies, peppers, runner beans, broad beans, and all my perennial flowers. I do this to save money. For example, sweet peas, $2.99 for 20 seeds. Save seeds are free. I agree. Anna Jones, if you add up the cost of all the veg and perennial flower seeds I've saved over the years, plus cuttings, I reckon I've saved hundreds, if not thousands of pounds by propagating for free. I'm with you. I do think that there's a lot of money that we could be saved. And as we know, the cost of living is going higher and higher, and seeds are costing more. I couldn't believe parsley half as much for £1 more. It made me think. Turbo Stream says, I will sow a pot of the electric onions and see. Excellent. Jenny says, my squash grow through my flower beds. I never let them all remember to pollinate or find them. Absolutely. Ballycillion has joined. Excellent. Hello all. Hello to you. Digwell, A plus B equals C. This is talking about F1. A plus B would be the parent plants, A and B, equals C, the F1 plant. If C mates with C, then yes, you may get A, B, or C. But if C is a perfect flower, tomato, chili, bean, etc., then the chances are it has mated with itself. So it should produce more C than A or B. This is exactly what I mean. It gets complicated, but don't let that put you off. Don't let it put you off. Nicola says, thumbs up, or indeed thumbs up. Oh, please. What have we got? Turbo Stream says, I searched electric onions and it said it wasn't an F1 variety. There we go. Unfortunately, I can't search. I could, but it distracts me, and I don't like doing things off camera when I should be talking to you. But yeah, F1, it wasn't an F1 variety, so it should hopefully come true. It'd be fun to see, wouldn't it? This is the point. It would be fun to see what happens. Now, one of the things that I did want to say is one of the things I'm looking at doing is actually saving more seed, particularly next year. And the reason for this, as I said, to save money. But I'm looking at dedicating a certain bed purely for seed saving. This is so I can sort of quarantine my seeds a little bit better, because I don't want them crossing over. I'm going to dedicate an entire bed. I'm going to let onions go to seed, going to let them flower and produce seed. We're going to let not so much garlic, we're going to let trying to think of, well, basically we're going to let everything go to flower. We're going to let cabbage, we're going to let parsley, we're going to let everything go to flower, and then we're going to try and save seed from that. We're going to really go all out on this, because I think it is going to be a really, really, really fun time. Really good experiment to do and see what we get. Digwell says the cost of seed all depends on the success of the breeder, weather conditions, etc. Yeah, there is a lot more to it than just it being the cost of living and stuff. But, you know, we can mitigate this. If we're growing our own, we can mitigate this. Scott says, I don't save seed. I should really, but I always like to grow something different every year. Now, this is a very good point, because there's no harm in growing something different every year as well. My point that I want to do is there are certain varieties that do well in my garden. I want to continue growing, but I will still at the same time try and grow other things that are different. But I'm saving money by saving my own seed from the seeds that I grow every year. I'm saving money that I could then spend on other seeds. That's my logic. That is my logic there. I forgot my train of thought for a minute. I got that at the end. Amanda says, hello. Oh, lovely to catch you live. I mostly have to catch up after the show now. I try and save seed as much as I can, but I do tend to find better germination. Interesting. I can believe that, because I think better germination is possibly because the seed is fresher. So I do think it makes sense. Jim has joined and says, hi, hello to you. We've got Idaho says, hello, sorry I'm late. Good evening to you, Idaho. Hope you are well. Hi, Anna. We're talking about seed saving. Have you ever saved your own seed? Okay. Why can't Rob's chat be seen? This is Rob using another account. I can see your chat, so I did see your chats earlier. Where were they? Where were they? I did see them. I did see them. Where was the last one I saw? I did. I don't know, actually. I did see some. They've gone missing. They've gone missing. I don't know. I don't know what's gone on there. Oh, Digwell can see it. Yep, I can see it. There was some. I did see some. Rob, go back into your other account and we'll try again and see if we see it. Scott says, letting things like coriander go to seed gives you a second different harvest plus seeds to replant. Actually, it's a good point, isn't it? Coriander seed is it a herb or a spice? One of the two. But it is something that you can then get two crops out of as well as try and replant them. So, yeah, good one. A good one. Good point. And that's another reason to let things go to seed as well. I can see that. Nicholas says, having so many F1 seeds I seem to buy prevents me from saving seeds. All I plan to do this year, Cabinet, is labelling with F1 or not so I can try and save some seeds next year. Good stuff. Good stuff. I do think labelling and quarantine is a good way. I mean, I label every single plant that I plant out. I label its variety, its type. Everything gets a label. Lots of little plastic labels all over my gun, but they last and they are great. Bailey Cillian says, if you're looking at certain varieties, you have to buy several companies, so the postage cost means saving seeds is better. Postage cost is actually a good factor. We all know about the pear tree I was looking at. It cost £27 for postage and packaging. No way I'm buying that. No way I'm buying on that. What have we got? There you go, Rob. We can see you. I can see you there. Sugar was hoping you'd go away. There we go. We can see you. Nicola, I bought some garlic bulbs this year from Dobby's, so I will plan to keep some cloves to plant in 2027. That's exactly what I do with my garlic. So every year I plant garlic and I save the biggest garlic variety. I actually now save the biggest from the allotment and the biggest from the home garden. And I replant the biggest bulb each year. That gives me plenty of garlic that I can actually harvest and eat, and it goes a long, long way. Trust me, we love garlic. And each year the garlic gets better and better. And it's really easy. As long as you don't let your garlic go to seed, it's really easy just to save your own garlic, because all you're doing, you're growing the garlic anyway. Elephant garlic I do exactly the same with. Really easy. Jenny says, bees and other pollinators love brassica flowers, onion flowers, parsnip flowers, etc. Yeah. Another good reason to let things flower or go to seed is that you can then encourage some of those wildlife, give them something to do as well. Digwell says, Seed Parade is a great seed company. Low postage fees. I'm not sure. I've checked them out for a long time, actually. But yeah, Seed Parade. There's some good seed companies out there. Obviously, postage and packaging is a very difficult thing for people to get right these days. I think I was discussing this with Amanda on a completely different subject. I think we're so used to having Amazon deliver everything for free and next day that we forget it does actually cost money to postage things. Nicola, I have 320 plus cloves to plant this year. That's going to keep you with a lot of garlic. Lot of garlic, 320 bulbs. That's almost a bulb of garlic every single day. You're going to go for quite a while. Didn't manage to get it in on time to buy. Didn't manage to get it in on time to buy elephant garlic. Will they have in spring to buy? Don't know, but pop down to your garden centre and have a look, I would say. But I don't know. Digwell says, vampires are a problem in Cornwall. Well, 320 bulbs of garlic will certainly go a long way in keeping them off. Now, I want to talk about the process of saving seeds from our plants because, as I said, I think it can be a little complicated to those who don't know. Beans are a prime example, and I mentioned this earlier, of something that it is incredibly easy. You just let them go dry on the vine until the pods are nice and crispy. Then you take the seeds and remove them from the pods, still put them in a brown paper bag or something just to dry them a little bit further, hang them up in the kitchen, and then store them somewhere cool, dry, and dark. Really, really easy one to um, save seeds from. Chilies and peppers I've already expressed as well. You know, you still get to eat the chilies or peppers. You do really want them to be fully ripe though, so you really red if they are the red varieties. Um, you want them to be fully ripe. If you harvest them when they're green, the chances are the seed hasn't quite developed, so therefore they're not going to produce any good seeds or produce any good plants. So you really want them when they're really, really ripe. Same with most of our plants, our seeds. You want them when they're really, really ripe, and this is particularly with things like cucumbers, because we tend to pick our cucumbers when they're green, and that's when they taste their best. But if you want to save seeds from cucumbers, you need them to go beyond that. You need them to go yellow and look horrible. But that's when the seeds have really are able to save the seeds. Now, I don't like this because I like it when we can save seeds from plants that we are going to eat the vegetables from at the same time. Things like I've said, tomatoes, peppers, chilies. But cucumbers, if we want to save seeds from cucumbers, we have to let those fruits go overripe in order for those seeds to be any viable. Has anybody saved seeds from cucumbers as an example or anything like that? Rob says yes, but don't forget Amazon is not always cheaper but convenient. Absolutely, absolutely right there. I totally agree with that. Digwell says Marshalls have spring planted elephant garlic. There you go, it does exist. Nicholas says I was selling at £1 a bulb, so I thought too many. Same as shallots, 500 grams of organic, £1 for 500 grams. Bargain, absolute bargain there. Turbo Extreme says my saved onion seeds are still in a paper bag with the heads. We'll need to start sorting the seeds out soon. Probably a Christmas week job or Boxing Day. Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I think it is important, as I said, we need to dry the seeds out completely. And I saw a reel from um, I can't remember his Instagram handle. I want to say Rob's Allotment, but that's not the Rob's Allotment who's here today. He's the guy. He's called Rob, just like our Rob. He's the guy who won the Allotment Challenge a few years ago, and he had this little. He does a lot of seed saving for the Heritage Seed Library, is it called? And he had this little USB powered seed dryer that I think somebody had 3D printed for him and just had a little fan to dry the seeds out. And I was looking at it, I thought that looks like a great piece of kit. And then I looked at the price and I thought 52 quid, including postage and packaging. Don't like it that much. And I was realizing actually my dehydrator is very, very similar. I just have to place the seeds on kitchen roll in order or something to dry them out a little bit better. Has anybody done anything like that? I'd love to know. Anybody say dried any seeds using a dehydrator or something? Thanks, Digwell. I did think I saw somewhere online I bought them from Sutton's, Dobbies and Marshalls in spring flowering bulbs. Absolutely. Turbo Stream says, I tried garlic for the first time. I used cloves from Lidl. Yep, that's absolutely right. You can. I've grown garlic from supermarket. It does work. Rob Smith, thank you, Anna. Thank you. That's exactly who I was thinking of. Yeah, he had this little seed drying dryer. That's all I can call it. It was a great piece of kit. But 52 quid. Felt a bit expensive for my liking. Jim says, I don't save many seeds, and if I do, it is mainly tomatoes and peppers. That was from me. Yeah, I know. You're bouncing between two. It's getting confusing. But yeah. Nicholas says, I've done with microwave containers on radiators with holes in the lid to dry the seeds. Excellent. Digger says, I just leave my seeds on top of the fish tank at 27 degrees, so nice and gentle. Love it. Love it. Chili Kate says, I would be concerned that the dehydrator is too warm. I guess it depends on the lowest settings. Yes, so my new dehydrator goes down to 35 degrees C, but if I put it on the top rack, it's a bit cooler. I think it's more just about getting the air flowing around it, getting the fan to blow air over it. You don't necessarily need the heat. It's more about getting the air to move, the air moving around it to remove some of that moisture with it. Yeah. Jenny says, I dry the stems tied upside down in my shed. Never had a problem. Paper bag tied around when they are dry and they drop when ready. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. What about tomato seeds? Now, tomato seeds are another example of a type of seed that there are certain steps that you have to take in order to get them ready for seed saving. And that's because if you've eaten tomato, I'm sure we've all eaten tomato seeds. We wouldn't be in this well, we would be growing our own food if we didn't eat tomato seeds. You get that jelly layer around the actual seeds. And that's actually there to stop the seeds from germinating. So what you have to do, you scoop out your tomato seeds from the tomato itself, and you have to place it in a jar of water for about a week for that jelly to ferment. Now, you know when it's ready, when the top of the water goes moldy, then you drain it off, wash it all off, and then dry out those seeds thoroughly. It makes it a little bit more complicated, but I don't think really it's that difficult to do. Has anybody had any luck with drying tomato seeds or getting tomato seeds in that same way, or got any tips on how to save tomato seeds? Nicola likes the idea from Jenny, too damp in Cornwall. And Digwell says, yes, the air movement does more drying than the heat. Yeah, it's the same as your clothes on the washing line. If the washing line moved around, it would actually dry more than if it just stayed still. The air movement is far, far, far more important than the actual heat. So, as Chili says, I can't put my fan on her dehydrator, that is, without heat. Yeah, I'm lucky with my dehydrator. I can turn the heat down quite low. But yeah, if you can't, you need a way. You might be able to doctor or play around. I wouldn't recommend it, actually. I'm not going to say that. I was going to say could take away the heater from the dehydrator, but I'm not going to recommend that to anybody else at all. But yeah, just getting a fan, just getting an air flowing is going to dry out those seeds. Jenny says, I've never done the tomato seeds properly. I just leave them to dry on a piece of paper. I've also sliced the tomato and planted it in the milk bottle method. They germinated in spring. Now, I've seen this tomato where you basically take a slice of tomato and you pot it into a pot and it's meant to germinate. It makes sense because that's what would happen in nature. I've never tried it myself. Has anybody actually done that and managed to keep tomatoes from year after year by slicing the tomato and planting that slice in the tomato in a pot, and it grows back the following year? Has anybody done that way? Jenny says, my shed is drafty but dry, Nicola. It's all about the draftiness, getting the air flowing. Rob says, I just got them out with a spoon and pick the seeds out and pot on a kitchen towel. never had a problem. Excellent. Brilliant, brilliant. And Digwell says tomato seeds, poplar seeds in about 100 mil of water, 10 mil of water, sorry. After 3 days, strain and rinse. Pat dry and leave somewhere warm. Best not to put them on a kitchen tissue as it sticks to the seeds. No, not a, as it sticks to the seeds, not a problem. Brilliant, brilliant. Exactly what I'm talking about. There are ways around it, but I sell them, he goes on to say. So there you go. It does work. In fact, I found some of your tomato seeds that you sent me once that I'm going to be trying to grow this year as well. Again, Stuart says, when I save tomato seeds, I just pop them on a bit of a kitchen towel for a couple of days, and that seems to work for me, says Stuart. Interesting. Anna says, I have never done mine properly either, but I always end up with enough seed. Fantastic. Jenny says, it worked with my green zebra tomatoes, planted into a sealed 4-pint milk bottle. Brilliant. Hargrave says, I've got some offshoots rooting in water now, and we'll pot on to try and keep the F1s going year on year. That's a good idea, isn't it? When you pinch out your offshoots on your tomatoes, pot them into a bit of water to try and keep them going year after year after year. Good idea there. Chili Kate says, not for my own tomatoes, but we did as a demo with my greening group. Worked really well. We germinated shop-bought tomatoes, peppers, and melons. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Hargrave, that's a great idea. Yeah, I like that idea. I do like that idea a lot. And it keeps those F1 varieties going as well. Now, let's keep the conversation going in just a minute, but I think it is time now. Well, let's go to this week's recipe of the week, which was chili jam. So for this week's recipe, we're going to be cooking chili jam, which is one of my absolute favourites. It always goes down well and it lasts for ages in the cupboard. Now the ingredients we're going to need, we have got 8 peppers, thumb-sized piece of ginger, several chilies, quite an important ingredient as you can imagine, some cloves of garlic, 750 grams of sugar, 250 millilitres of red wine vinegar, and 2 cans of chopped tomatoes. So the first thing we're going to do, into the blender I have added the crushed garlic, the chilies, which I've left the seeds on because I want a bit more heat, the peppers and the ginger, which I've all prepared beforehand, and we're just going to I was afraid this might happen. It does need a little bit of liquid just to get it going. So I'm going to add some vinegar. And we'll do it again. Well, there we go. That's all nicely liquidized. Right, this is all going to go into this jar pan, which is a specific pan that I have for jam making, into which we're also going to add the chopped tomatoes, all the red wine vinegar, and the sugar, and then we're just going to cook that, or bring that up to a boil. Okay, well that looks like it's brought to a boil. I like to give it a good little stir and just turn the heat down. We're going to cook this for about an hour and a half and just keep stirring it every now and then just to stop it from catching. Everything is looking nice and liquid, no lumps that I can see. Looking good, looking very, very good. Well, I love this point because that looks like it's a big bubbling mass of lava. For the last few minutes I've had to just stir this constantly. It's gone really nice and thick and sticky, which looks absolutely amazing. But if we leave that for a second, it'll soon start bubbling up which I just think looks like lava. However, that does tell me it is ready. Now that's good timing, because while we were cooking the jam, chili jam, we have been sterilising our jars, and these come together perfectly to fill up with this delicious sauce. Ultimately, we want to know how it tastes, of course. And I can tell you, I've eaten this many times, it is absolutely delicious. Now this is going to take a while to cool down, but it's made a nice big jar of this delicious chili jam. I know it's delicious because I've cooked this many times in the past, but I have got a small amount. I'm just going to check it over with you to make sure that this batch tastes just as good. Look at that, nice and sticky. Absolutely lovely. Just tingle of chili, just a tingle of heat, which of course you could adjust depending on what chilies you are going to be using. Absolutely lovely. This goes great with chili jam. If you're going to give it a try, let me know how you get on with it. I love this stuff. Indeed, I absolutely love my chili jam, and I have to give that a 10 out of 10, which is absolutely delicious. I actually had it for lunch. I took a piece of bread which was toasted. I spread it on the bread, covered it in cheese, and toasted that. Cheese on toast with chili jam. Delicious, delicious. Hopefully that is exactly what, I think it was Toby last week who set the chili jam recipe. That's what he was after. If you're going to give it a go, let me know how you get on. Digwell says, my best harvest yield of tomatoes was a volunteer Santiam Sunrise. Incredible crop. It was supposed to be indeterminate, but I let it ramble. No side shooting. Still got 3 kilos. 3 kilos in the freezer. Digwell says, what sweet peppers are they? They've never seen ones with 5 lobes before. Those sweet peppers actually came from the supermarket. They came from Morrison's, so I don't know, but I've saved some of the seeds just in case. We did all right with sweet peppers this year, but I didn't have enough. I needed 8 for that recipe, and I just didn't have enough in the freezer. And to be honest, for chili jam, you want fresh peppers. Rob says, I have, but forgot the name of them. Something like Diablo. Absolutely. Digwell, I can't remember. What have we got? Nicholas says, do you keep the side shoots in a cool bedroom? Do they need grow lights? Good question. Good question. And I know Charles Dowding does a tomato variety, which no longer able to buy the seeds. I think there's a pea variety. I was watching some YouTube the other day. There's a pea variety that he also does that is no longer for sale. Digwell says, I miss my chili jam. Too much sugar for me these days. Oh, yeah, sorry, but I love chili jam. I absolutely love that chili jam. That could be 1 egg to keep a rare variety going. That's a very good point, isn't it? One way, she goes on to say, well, not egg. One way. But I think it's a good point. I do think when we save our own seed, we can keep some of these varieties going that have been lost to the annals of time. There are often people who are searching for certain varieties of seeds that have been lost, and we want to recover that. In fact, I think during World War II, it was very, very common to keep seeds because, well, you couldn't go and buy them very easily. Idaho says, I know about the sugar. And Hargrave says, tomato offshoots just seem okay just on a windowsill. They don't grow much, as shorter days, less light, but root well. Fantastic. So now one of the things that we haven't mentioned too much, we've mentioned it a couple of times, but potatoes. Have you ever thought about keeping potatoes, or how you could... Let's say end of the world scenario. I'm not saying anything about that going to happen, but end of the world scenario, you can't go and buy seed potatoes, how would you keep your potatoes going so that you could have a supply every single year? Obviously, very, very difficult in certain circumstances. One of the things that I've done before, I haven't done it for a while actually, is when I harvested my potatoes, I saved some seed potatoes, basically some small potatoes from my harvest, and I planted those the following year. And amazingly, it worked. There's a lot of people that tell you not to do this. There is a lot of people that will tell you not worth it. They will go moldy. They will carry disease and everything. It didn't happen. It worked. It really did work. The hard thing was stopping it from sprouting too early. So what I did, my first earlies, I just left them in, my first and second earlies for that matter, I left them in the pot until November. Left them growing. They regrew. I didn't care. I just left them growing. And then in sort of October, November, harvested every single potato that I had growing in the pots I'd set aside. Basically, I've got about 6 different varieties of potatoes. I took one of each potato into its own independent pot, and then we just saved those and replanted those next year. It worked, and it saves a fortune. The hard thing is, when you harvest them, you do need to keep them separate from your main potatoes, your eating potatoes, but you also need to keep them somewhere where they don't get any light and they're really, really cool. My garage works quite well, but I think even there it could be cooler, just to prevent it from germinating. Unfortunately, where I am on the south coast, it is difficult. Digwell says, I normally seek out 4 low peppers, more room inside for stuffing, but 5. Well, a whole new world opens up for me. Well, I've saved some seed, Digwell. If it works, I will send you some. I don't know what variety they are, but I will send you some. Digwell says, spuds, yes, every year for the last 6 years. How do you save your seed potatoes, or how do you save your potato seeds? Digwell, tell us more. Tell us more. I may try doing early tomatoes on a windowsill in January, February, keeping them in a cool bedroom. The key thing to remember is they need light. That is the key thing. It can be done. I've started sowing things like chilies and aubergines because I find they need a long growing season, but they've got light. They got light. Scott has asked, has anyone crossed varieties and saved seeds to make new varieties? Good question. Very good question. Has anybody done that? And what was the results? Have you tried breeding your own varieties of whatever vegetable it might be? Nicola, I reuse potatoes from year to year. Brilliant, brilliant. And I had potatoes come up as volunteers the next year, but the crop seemed to have scabs. Scabs scab on potatoes usually means they've got too much of a certain chemical in the soil. They're growing too well, basically. But it's not the end of the world because the scab just simply shaves off, comes off. It's not the end of the world. Jenny says, I lost my Purple Majesty potatoes when we moved. Must have been thrown away by accident. Absolutely gutted as I haven't managed to get any since. We're going to have to talk about potatoes next year, aren't we, when they all become available. Anna says, I always save the green ones for seed potatoes. Never had an issue. Fantastic, fantastic. Digwell, spuds, don't wash them. Grade them to get rid of any disease, etc. Wrap in kitchen tissue. Store in a cool, dark place. I use an old tabletop fridge set at 2 degrees C. Inspect weekly for rot. Do you not find in a fridge they get too damp? Genuine question. Genuine question. I did that 2 years ago with chilies, if you remember, under my bed with grow lights. I do remember that. I do remember that. Yes. Under the bed with grow lights. Yeah. To be fair, easier to just sow an early crop and tomato variety if you want early fruits. Yeah. Jamie has joined. I sowed seeds from a pointy red sweet pepper from Tesco this year and had the best pepper harvest ever. Excellent, excellent. Now, this is actually something quite good because one of the things I've been experimenting this year is what seeds or what we can grow from supermarket bought produce. And seed saving is coming up quite a bit. Things like peppers, but also some of the herbs and spices we buy, how we can grow from that. So I'm glad it's not just me. I'm glad it's not just me. Scab is caused by them being too wet. It has no effect on the potato taste or saving to use again as seed potatoes. There you go. There you go. And Idaho says to Jamie, that is exciting to get a good crop from store bought veg. Yeah. I think there is a saying, or there is a reason why you're not meant to use store bought veg. I don't know what it is. Well, I do actually. They say it's because it's not certified. You could be contaminating the soil. You could be doing this and that. Actually, I think it's because they're scared that you could be saving money by growing seeds from some supermarket stuff or things like that. That's a skeptical me at the moment, being skeptical. You can save money buying vegetables and saving the seed from that. Dig around the kitchen tissue allows the spud to breathe, and a fridge fan keeps things dry but not dehydrated. Brilliant, brilliant. Excellent, excellent. I've got a few projects at work next year that might be using some of this for in that. Oh, good cup of coffee. Now, one of the things I just want to quickly mention, we were talking a couple of weeks ago about Charles Dowding's seed tray. I've got one here, which I actually think is quite good, but we were talking about whether or not my finger could fit into the gap, and that it barely fits in. I can that's my little finger. I can just get it in that much, and it's tight. It looks like a big hole, but I definitely can't get my thumb in or any of my other fingers. I can just get my finger, my little finger in there, and even that is getting tight. I just wanted to show that because I know I've got quite big hands. I've got quite big fingers, and I'm looking for ways that make it easier to get seeds out. Right. Hargrave says, I've saved lots of supermarket sweet pepper seeds and never got them to germinate. Interesting. Interesting. This is why I think when we save the seeds, before, once we've dried them, once we've get them prepared to go into storage, I think we need to take a few of them and just sort of sprout them on some kitchen roll in a heated propagator and see if they will actually do anything. Excuse me, I'm so windy tonight. Just as a test to see if they are worth storing. Digwell says, all of my garlic this year is shop bought, Tesco and Ocado. Oh, living a dream buying from Ocado there. But yeah, I've grown... Garlic is a good example. People tell you, or the magazines, the newspapers, the books tell you not to grow it from supermarket. Buy in the best garlic you possibly can. And that's because often the garlic that we buy from a supermarket is grown in somewhere like Spain. But I did it. This year. I threw my nose to the wind, gave it a try, and I've actually grown some really good garlic from it. So I'm going to be doing that again. Well, I'm going to keep that going. I'm going to keep that going as many times as we possibly can to see if it gets better and better. Scott says, there is a benefit to saving and planting your own seed. It makes for stronger plants suited to your soil. That's genetics, actually. Again, this is why I think my garlic gets better and better each year. The genetics of saving your own seed gets better each year because it is done so much better in your soil and you've saved the seeds, you're keeping those genetics going. It's as Charles Dowding described it, it's survival of the fittest. So the best seeds are going to be more than likely to be saved and therefore pass those genetics on, then you're almost fine-tuning it to your own soils and your own conditions. I think this is why some people will get on really well with one particular variety of seed, but other people will struggle because of the soil. Your local conditions are so different. Rob says seed producers scaremongering because they need you to buy from them. It could be that. It definitely could be that. I do think that there's something going on there. Jamie says CD cell trays are great. They're just enough space to release the cell or just use a bit of bamboo cane. I think it's going to be the bamboo cane in my... But I agree. I like them. They do seem quite solid, but they are pricey. They are pricey at the same time. Chili Kate says, remember some veg from supermarket might not be from the UK, so might not grow in our climate. It's a good point. It's actually a very good point. And that's what I was saying about the garlic. Could be from Spain, so may not do well in our environment. Rob says, file my fingers down. Yeah, perhaps. Nicholas says, I have no problem with my little and next finger in that CD tray. I can barely get my finger in. Digwa says, no, the 40 cell CD tray is pants. I bought 5 and only use them if I run out of others. Yeah, I don't think they're pants. I think they're built to last. They're solid, but I think they've seen them. They're selling like I think you can push seeds out as well, which yeah. Kate says, I had one of those CD seed trays, and the first time I watered it, all the soil fell out. Yeah, it is quite big, And Jenny's came up with a mission: make a Charles Dowden seed tray plug remover, basically a big dibber of sorts. Yeah, that's exactly what I've seen they are selling. So that has gone on to the mission. Don't forget, if you've got a mission for next week or a cook along for next week, put it in the comments. It goes into the draw. I've actually got quite a bit of time this week because I'm not at work this week. So if you've got anything you want me to do, this is going to be a good week to do it. Idaho, the produce in the market is a hybrid. If you plant, all the produce in the market is a hybrid. If you plant those seeds, you may not get something like the original produce you bought. That is true. You don't know what you're going to get when you plant seeds from a supermarket. You don't know. So you've got to be a little bit careful. It's a chance. You're rolling the dice. Hargraves says, I shop in Tesco's and Asda. Excellent. A man after my own heart. Well, actually, we're Aldi and Lidl these days, but I don't go to a supermarket that much anymore. Turbo Stream says, don't get your finger stuck. That would be interesting conversation in A&T. Well, I was doing a live stream on YouTube. It is actually really easy to get my fingers stuck on them. So, yeah. Rob says, I shop at food banks. Yeah. Ocado. Oh, I've lost it. Sorry. Where were we? Where was it? Where was it? No, it was that one, wasn't it? Ocado is not that expensive. They have a price promise, so refund you if Tesco's is cheaper. Interesting. I didn't know that. I did not know that. Andrew says, my neighbour Tonya grows for me the best garlic. Large bulbs with beautiful purple veins. Fantastic. Do love garlic. Scott says, agree, and you can get hard to find ingredients on Ocado. Excellent. I've never actually looked at Ocado, to be honest with you, but it's because we don't really do online shopping like that. Bally saying, I'm always amazed. Care for my seed potatoes, then the ones I missed and left in the ground survive a winter and grow next year. It's always the way, isn't it? Volunteer seed potatoes, they seem to grow better than the potatoes we've planted as well. They're volunteer. The ones that have been left in the soil missed seem to grow better than any potatoes that we actually grow. Weirdly, it's weird how that happens. Get a ream that holes out. Yeah, could do. Chili cake, cook along, make something using your chili jam. I'm thinking something tasty for Christmas. Ooh, I could come up with a few ideas. Digwell says the biggest problem with a CD40 is that it does not fit into a standard size gravel tray for bottom watering. Yeah, I put it in my what do you call them? Autopots. I put them in my autopots, and they actually work quite well in that. So interesting. If I use any seed from shop but produce, I always test germinate a couple of weeks before, just in case. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. We've got to test our seeds before we sow them, make sure they are going to work. Yeah, most of my non-UK dishes are created from Ocado items. Brilliant. Right, it is time for another video. We've done the chili jam, so let's have a look at this week's mission, which tallies up with what we're talking about, funnily enough. Okay, this week's mission is all about soilless gardening, which is quite a hot topic on the subject. I think something that many of you do yourselves. For this, I'm going to be using my hydroponic gardening kit. I got this from West Kent Hydroponics. It was a pretty cheap bit of kit. I got to say about £40, and I'm really happy with it. There could be improvements, don't get me wrong, but for £40, what does one expect? Now, I've been growing this tomato plant in it for nearly a year now, and I'm trying to see just how long we can keep it growing for, and hopefully it's going to grow for a lot longer. Now, it is soilless, which means it's hydroponic. Well, that's not necessarily what soilless means, but it is hydroponic growing. So in there is a load of water, into which we also have to add the nutrients. This is something I'm quite bad at remembering to do, adding plenty of nutrients, but it does make a difference. The actual plant itself starts off in these foam inserts, which the roots grow out into that nutrient rich liquid. These are really simple. They just slot in to the holes, and you've got a little hole in there where the seed drops into place. As for what seeds can be sown, well, pretty much anything. One of the most common things that people will grow in their hydroponics is herbs, and I'm going to sow some basil herbs in this just quickly to well, basically so we can see how it gets on over the coming weeks. Basil is going to go into this one here. That's not all we can do. I think sometimes people grow herbs in these because it seems like the right thing to do, but there's a lot of things that people would say can get a bit boring about it. So what else can we do in this? I'm going to sow in, I've got some sweet peppers, some aubergines and some chilies that I'm also going to add one by one. Again, all I'm going to do for this, if I can get the packet open, is just get a single seed, which we then just drop into that foam insert, and we'll leave it to do its own thing. Now, what are the advantages of growing in a soilless environment? First of all, there's no weeding that needs to be done, which makes it actually quite easy to grow. Quite a bit of time can be saved. I'm also going to sow some Hungarian hot wax chili seeds at the same time. So yeah, weeding is massively reduced just by thanks to the fact that there is no soil. These can be grown indoors all year round, which is what we're doing in here. We're growing all year round. If I can get one seed out, there we go, which means we can supply ourselves with food most of the year as well, and it doesn't take much work to get them to work at the same time. The final seed that I'm going to sow today is aubergine, which is really simple, and that just drops in there as well. Now all we got to do over the next few weeks, we will watch them and see just how well these produce. Right, back to the studio. Indeed, hopefully that is mission accomplished. You let me know in the comments. We'll keep an eye on this over the coming weeks and see if any of these plants germinate and if we get any food from them. They're always here, always at the back of this studio. You probably see it. It's next to our Christmas tree. Christmas tree won't be there after Christmas though, but that will be. That will be. Rob says, I always thought Ocado and Waitrose was the same company. They certainly used to be. They certainly used to be. Digwell, so you have to buy Charles Dowding tray. I wouldn't like that. Someone is selling something along those lines here. I want everything to fit the standard size 10 by 20 trays. Yeah, there is. There's a lot going on there. A lot going on there. Hargrave Gas says, even if they germinate, is there any guarantee that they will fruit? There's a lot of effort that could lead to no produce. It's a good point. It is a very good point. This is why we have to be a little optimistic. But the thing is, our seeds that we buy in, then what are they doing different? What are they doing different? Digwell's come up with a cook-along, create a festive dish from homegrown veg. And hashtag cook-along, a winter squash recipe from Hargrave Gas. Absolutely. So we've got plenty of cook-alongs. We need missions as well. More cook-alongs, though, if you want to throw it in there. What have we got? Idaho says, I grew a chili plant in an aero garden hydroponic for over a year. Then the stem turned into a tree trunk. It looked great. Then the trunk got so fat in the hole that the growing deck girdled it. Interesting. They do well, don't they? Digwell says, many these days seem to pull off hydroponics as you cannot use organic feeds. I tried with organic feeds and had to bin the water after 4 days. The front room was smellier than my socks. Yeah, there is that to it, isn't there? There is that to it. But a lot of people are moving towards hydroponics a lot more. I just don't think it's suitable if it's in an indoor environment or something. Idaho says, I tried to remove it to transplant it, but the plant had grown so thoroughly throughout the aero garden bowl, I had to cut it out and it died. Yeah, shame. Some of you I know is starting seeds off in your hydroponics and get them started and then seeing how they turn out. It seems to work quite well. Stuart says, mission accomplished. Andrew says, please give us some close-ups of your hydroponic system. I'll do that next week for you. But yeah, it's there. It's always there. It's been there for a while as well, since I got it pretty much. Jenny says, not against them, but hydroponics has never appealed to me. Guess I love being outside too much. Yeah, I do it because it's another way of growing food and it's something I've got to explore, but I do prefer outdoor food. And Digwell says, this is why I love my veggie pod kitchen garden. Things grow in compost with a wicking system indoors. I've yet to try the veggie pod kitchen garden. I've got to look at it a bit more and get one because I think it could be good. I'm looking for decent root trainers for my sweet peas. Any recommendations? I used the Hacknix ones, but they are a few years old and they are starting to disintegrate. But that's what I use, the Hacknix, and they've done me well, but they are expensive at the same time. I've seen there are some very, very similar ones on the market from, I can't think of the company's names, but there are some good ones on the company as well. Chili cake, commercially, hydroponics is not organic. No, agreed. Although there are some, I want to say aquatic. Does that mean watercress? Is that grown hydroponically or is that just grown? Is that organic? Out of interest, purely out of interest there. Digwell says, I miss my aero gardens. Used to have two, not supported here in the UK now. It's a shame. Kate says, I start my seeds often in hydroponics. Chilies have been amazing. There we go. And Rob says, I will be sowing my chilies and peppers after Christmas. I've got many of mine going now and aubergines. I'll be sowing. I sow a few each month just to keep them going, or every few weeks. But I have found, especially aubergines, the long growing season, they really seem to like. And I like this year, I started my aubergines off the end of November last year, and I've had some of the best aubergines ever this year. And we're still harvesting aubergines to this day from the greenhouse. So aubergines for me are definitely one that we are a big fan of starting early. And it's the same with chilies and things as well. Really, really doing well. Mine are used for herbs during the winter months. Talking about the hydroponics, I think. I like the Nutley trays for deep roots. I'm not familiar with Nutley, but yeah. Toilet rolls, says Rob. Nice and simple. Toilet rolls. And Digwell says, many have came and many have gone, but the Hacknicks are the best, in my honest opinion. I've used them for years. I will admit, I have used them for years. They are expensive. Mine are starting to fall apart, but they are good. They are good. Jenny says, Digwell, I'm not against them, just never appealed to me. Pleased you get a lot from them. And Anna says, Garland deep root kits are excellent. Garland was the company I was thinking of. Thank you. It's exactly who I was thinking of, is the other one I've seen. They seem quite solid, but I've not used them myself, not had the need yet. Nicola, I've just brought the Garland's 28 cell deep root trainers. They come with a sturdy deep tray, but the lid could be a bit sturdier. I paid about £12 for the 28 deep cell. They click together. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Chili Kate says organic watercress can be grown outside using traditional water beds. I thought so. I did think so. I thought that was the case. I knew you would know as well. So thank you. Hargrave Gas says, demonstrate a winter job for greenhouses that you would recommend that we do. A winter job for greenhouses that we recommend that we do. Depends if you're using your greenhouse or not during the winter. Hopefully you are. Kate says, thanks. Oh, Digwell, do you have your veggie pod indoors? Good question. And Rob says, the simple way is always the best. Keep it simple, stupid, is always my way. Hacknicks, expensive, cheapest on the market. You can buy new books as needed. True. It is true. You can buy new books as needed. I reread your comment on the veggie pod. Kitchen garden. There you go. So is that time where we're going into Richard's rant or rave, and I'm going to have a little bit of a rant, and this rant is my own fault. So my rant this week is. I didn't get
that. Could you try again?
Not you. Shut up. My rant.
Okay.
My phone's answering back. My rant. I'm going to have a rant this week. So what is it about? So Thursday night, I had my work's Christmas do. Great fun. And went out with some of my work colleagues. We had a few rounds of crazy golf. We followed that off with virtual darts, went for a meal, and then we went to a few bars and round somebody's house till the very early hours of the morning. And it got me thinking, well, we need a gardening thing, a gardening activity that can be done on something like a night like that. But that's another subject. My rant is Friday, I spent most of the day in bed. I basically lost the day. And since then, it has been raining. And it's meant I've got down the allotment. I've done a few bits. I've been out in the kitchen garden. I've done a few bits. There's always things I could do. But my rant is, why is it you always lose a day or when you're going to lose a day, the weather is the best day for gardening? Why is that? Or why is it the day or the one day you can't get to the allotment or you can't get out in the garden is the best weather for it? Why? Andrew says, as a mission, how do you sharpen your tools? Good one. Actually, you will hear that on the podcast tomorrow, but that's definitely gone into the mission as well. Nicholas says, I don't have a greenhouse. Never mind. Oh, he's put it in there twice. Ido says, I have tried to find route trainers over here. I've had to order from some company in the Virgin Islands. I haven't used them yet. They are good, especially with things like beans and sweet peas, things that have a deep tap root. They are really good for that, and they're reusable. Let us know how you get on. Let us know how you get on. Uh, so yeah, my rant, as I said, it's why is it the best weather is always on the day you can't get down to the gun? As I said, it was my fault. It was my fault that I was unable to go out. I shouldn't have stayed and got in at 4 o'clock in the morning, but it happens. It does happen. I was rather ill afterwards as well. Thing is, I don't drink, so it wasn't alcohol related. It was just something going on. It was just the lateness of it. It was just the lateness. Digger says, I had my Alexa set to a wake word computer. OMG, I was watching Star Trek, and every time Kirk said computer, I got, I'm sorry, I cannot do that. Yeah, I've got my Alexa to set to the same word as well, but not my phone. I don't know why my phone went off like that. Tabo Stream says, I told my phone to fuck off once. It apologized. Hey Siri, fuck off.
I won't respond to that.
It said, I won't respond to that if you didn't hear that. Oh, I don't know if that's going to be a bad word actually on things. We'll keep it polite. We'll keep it polite from now on in. What we're going to do? What we're going to do? So next week, what we're going to talk about next week. Now, what I thought we were going to do next week is we were going to put everybody's, or get you all to send in. Was it next week? You said that. Said we were going to do this. Where next week I want you all to send in your plot photos. So some of you have been taking photos of your allotment, of your garden on the 1st of every month, and you've been and it's going to be putting together to see like a snapshot of how your allotment or your kitchen garden has progressed through the year. And Digwell's already sent his photos in for me for the year. If anybody else wants to take part, then I would love to see these photos. But I think next week, that's what we're going to talk about, is how has your allotment, your kitchen garden progressed throughout this year. That's what we want to talk about next. I was going to do that another day, actually, weren't I? I can't remember now. I can send you a Hackney packs if you want, if you front the cost of shipping, says Digwell to Idaho. Turbo Stream says, oh, Richard. Rob says, Richard, I think it might have to do with a age thing. It might do, actually, because I don't set any age limits on. I don't say it's for kids, so yeah. Idaho says, Digwell, Aragon went out of business for a couple of years. I was shocked. Now I see Aragon advert on US Amazon in time for Christmas, but I have a lot less models offered. Funny enough, I've seen there was a compost bin brand that I quite like called Subpod, and it's an underground composting system. They went out of business, unfortunately, a few years ago, but they've been brought back, but not in the UK, which is a real shame because it was a really good system. Really liked it. Although the hot bin is doing really, really good as well. Kate says Richard's going to get told off. We'll see. Chili Kate, I got 11 missed October. Well, that's right. That's all right. If you would be good enough to send me all 11 that you do have, that would be great. I can pop them together to make a collage or a little video thing, if you so wish. Turbo Stream says we were doing the plot photos after Christmas, if I recall, end of year thing. I thought that. I did think that. I couldn't remember what we were going to do next week. There we go. The allotment cook. Oh no, I meant to do a monthly photo from the same spot this year, but didn't. Fatal area called it a New Year's resolution. Indeed. That is the fatal. Well, there's always next year. Well, start now. Don't wait till the new year. Just start. It's well worth doing, I think. I've got to admit, I'm pretty bad at it myself. I was going to set up a jig and take a photo from the same place on the same time of every month and see how it progresses. And I never got around to doing it either. I take lots of photos throughout the year, but never really done it. I think you're right. I think we're going to do that between Christmas and New Year. So we won't do that next week. I had something I was thinking of doing next week, and I can't remember what it was now. Idaho says Spider Farmer used to have an indoor hydroponics kit. They quit production for a couple of years. Now they are back with a more expensive version. Absolutely. Richard, I won't be doing a year of photos due to the reclaim, but next year, hopefully. Absolutely. Absolutely. Rob says, no, your night out. Not your night out. Yeah. My photos are still on my phone, on my iPhone. Look, send them in. Send them in. The Cook, I have SubPod, great, but yes, I'm on in Australia at the moment. They are good. They are good. I like the SubPod a lot. Idaho says, Digwell, thank you for the offer. Let me use the ones I got already, and perhaps I will take you up on the offer. There we go. I've forgotten more than I know. I always forgetting to do the before photo or the after one too. Call myself a content creator. Indeed, indeed. So what we're going to talk about next week? What do you want to talk about next week? What was the subject I was thinking of? I can't think what it was now. I tell you what, let's have a look at your photos, because we haven't done that yet. Let's have a look at your photos while I try and think what the subject for next week was going to be. So I can't see that from here. Let's bring it over here. First of all, talking of the plot shots, this is Chili Kate's shot for December. I'm looking forward to seeing how it's came together throughout the year, actually, because I think that would be very, very interesting. Nicola has planted some shallots, as you can see here, looking fantastic, I have to say. Good to get some plants in the ground, isn't it? Or get them growing anyway. Chili Kate is asking who was after some horseradish. Somebody was after some horseradish on this show, and she couldn't remember who it was. Nicola has been working very hard to get her plot established. As you can see, a lot of work has gone on over the year. And I think everyone deserves a round of applause for all the hard work that has been done. Kate has been doing the She Grows Veg Advent Calendar. This was on day 7. Spring radish and giant butter. But she's also had these 6 for the first 6 days. So there's tomato, there's squash, there's Swiss chard, there's melon, there's summer cabbage, and there are sunflowers. Great collection of seeds, I've got to say. Great collection indeed. Chili Kate's top podcast is, of course, the Veg Grow Up podcast. Very, very pleased to see that, of course, and thank you so much for listening. Really does mean a lot to me. Bonnie has shared this photo of Zorro on the plot. I thought this was quite interesting. We talked about dogs on the plot a few weeks ago, and what I found interesting is that Bonnie actually does a borrow my dog thing. And she gets to borrow Zorro to go down the plot with. Very good indeed. Now, Kate says we have been sitting on a fortune. Not cater, as I've written here. Kate says we've been sitting on a fortune after a French farm has 90,000 euros worth of snails stolen. I swear they could come to my garden and find some more to make up for it. They're more than welcome. Now, behold Beddo's kitchen. Last week he mentioned that his kitchen was done in the 1980s. I've got to say, I think it looks pretty good for a 1980s kitchen. I need to redo mine one day. I really do. Now, please do keep sharing your photos. You can post them in our Facebook group, send to me via social media, or email me, richard@theveggrowpodcast.co.uk. That's richard@theveggrowpodcast.co.uk. We honestly do love seeing them. We're going to do the draw in just a second, but I saw a suggestion for next week. Where were we? We'll go through. I'll go through the comments first. Nicholas says, I saw somebody on a short Facebook She uses a stainless steel steamer with a lid on her small bed. I like the idea. Won't rot and rats can't chew into it, and it doesn't take up so much room in small beds. Stainless steel steamer. What's that do? What's that for? We could have a free for all next week. I think that's what we would do. It's a free for all. Everyone can have a rant or talk. Let's just have a chat about gardening. Let's have a chat about gardening. Digwell says, I'll be busy doing the last 7 videos this week. Looking forward to seeing them. Looking forward to seeing them indeed. Good idea. Public rent sort of thing. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. Somebody doesn't like the snails. Neither does Idaho either. And Nicholas says, I'd love some horseradish cake, please. There we go. Stuart says, I always plan to take pictures, but I always forget the before photo. Then my wife reminded me, we'll start tomorrow on the 7th of the month from then on. All I do, all you got to do, I say the 1st of every month, but not easy to get down to the garden on the 1st of the month or get down to your allotment. The first Saturday or the first chance that you get to take those photos of the month, try and get in the same position and just take a photo and see how your garden has progressed over the year. I think it'd be quite amazing what it looks like. Idaho says, not a fan of eating snails. Sorry, I've only done it a couple of times in my life. It's just like eating mussels, if I'm honest. It's just the thought of it. Once you get past the thought of it, it was just like eating mussels. But I'll never eat them again, knowingly. Steamer for an in-bed compost bin. Okay. Over on Instagram, Allotment Cooks has joined. I saw you on a TV screen yesterday in British Garden Centres, looking out of a window. Hope you're well. Hope you are well. Nicholas says, I just have to walk out my front door to take my photo. Yeah. Exactly. Anyway, let's see what is going to be. What should we go for first? Let's do the cook along for next week. We've got 3 entries. So who is going to be, or what are we going to be cooking? You're going to have to remind me what you suggested because I can't remember. Whoever wins, as you can see, all the names are going through. Digwell again. Digwell, I think if I remember correctly, it was something festive out of homegrown veg, if I remember. Perhaps you could tell me and remind me. Allotment Cook says, I trained for years to do that nosy neighbour performance. Fame. It did make me laugh. It did make me laugh when I saw you on the screen. I was with my wife and I went, I know her. The little things. I went to I don't go to garden centres in December, but I went to British Garden Centres in Balborough. We do this every Christmas now. They have a train that goes around and with Christmas lights. And that's why I was there. Oh, wrong one. Now let's do what we got. Share screen. The mission. Next week's mission. Again, another 3 entries. So what have we got? Who's going to win? Who's going to win? Who's going to win? Sometimes we need a bit of music to go with this. Jenny's mission. I can't remember what Jenny's mission was either. So perhaps you will be able to let me know. Yeah, I just realised the time. It is almost time to pack up anyway. Let's just quickly go through what we've got. Digwell, yeah, festive dish with homegrown veg. I'll have to see what I can do. I have to see what I can do and come up with. But yeah, I can certainly come up with something. Festive dish with homegrown veg. Anyway, it is almost 7:30, so it's going to be time now to pack up and get out of here. Thank you so much for joining me. Next week, we're going to have a free-for-all, so you can decide what we're going to talk about. Get ready, get your notes taken down all throughout the week. Don't forget to share your photos, videos, or anything like that. Just quickly before we go, Allotments Cooks says, just to spoil the mystery, the Christmas advert was filmed in August. No idea how the guys at British Garden Centres kept it so jolly. It was amazing. It was amazing. Anyway, yeah. Jenny's mission was make a plug remover. I'll send the notes over. Thank you so much, Jenny, for that. Have a good week, everyone. And Stuart, so thank you for another great show. See you all next week. Indeed, it is time to pack up and get out of here and done for another week. We will be back again next Sunday at 6, where you guys are going to decide what you want to talk about. It's a free-for-all. We're just going to throw it down and see where the conversation goes. Added to that, we're going to be making a dibber for this, and we're going to be making a festive dish out of homemade veg. All that is going to be next week. So thanks so much for joining me. Have a good week, everyone. And most importantly, please take care. Cheers, guys.